Hello world, I'm PJ Dev, and in this part of the tutorial, actually, we are going to try to cover up HTML in under 1 hour. Well, so this is what we'll be going through. Uh, they've already been outlined over here, so we'll start from over here, and we'll make our way through to uh, the last topic of this tutorial. So let's get started. I have the timer over here, so let's start. Okay, HTML intro. um so first of all, what is HTML? HTML stands for hypertext markup language, and we use it to add structure to our web pages. So you can think of all the content that you saw on web pages without any styling as HTML, whether it be text or video and audio, and a list and tables and so on. All those are HTML. We use this to mark up our web pages, and along with CSS, which is for cascading style sheet, and JavaScript. CSS is for styling, and JavaScript is for adding interactivity to our web pages. So let's start with the note. So, well, first of all, what do we use HTML for? Well, we use this to add structure to our web pages. So our web pages as I've mentioned earlier, well, think of if you visit any pages, think of the text, think of the list, think of the tables, think of the videos, the audios, and the images on those web pages. We use HTML to achieve that, and HTML is actually very essential if you want to learn web development. So we have two main keywords that we'll be going over: the hypertext and the markup. So as I've mentioned earlier, the markup are those tests, but in HTML we have more than ordinary text. So you can use HTML to add headings to our web pages, paragraphs, list, videos, audios, and so on. We have tables and etc. And what of the hypertext in HTML? The hypertext, actually, think of it as any text that when you clicked will take you to another web pages. And so that is used for the introduction to HTML. So I believe I can check this as done, and now we have uh, tags, elements, content, and attributes. So before I explain all of those, there are few things that we actually go about. Well, first of all, if you want to create any HTML document, you need to save such file with the extension of .html or .html. Okay, sorry. To save any, we use the .html and .html file extension. The file extension that I recommend the most is .html. but if you like, you can use the .htm file extension. So you can easily use any text editor to write your HTML code. And you can already see that I'm using VS Code over here, so you can go ahead and download VS Code. um, I won't be explaining how to use the VS Code, uh, but I recommend you use VS Code because that's what I'll be using in this tutorial. And you can go ahead and create file using this icon over here. So you can create a new file, and now don't forget we need the this .html extension or .htm extension. So I believe we all know what file extensions are, so I can just go ahead and delete over here. So, and now let's get started with the tutorial. So what I'll be going through is the basic structure of every HTML document. So first of all, at the start of your HTML file, you are going to specify the version of HTML that you are using, and I'm going to be using the latest version. Actually, this is not the latest version, but the latest standard version, the HTML5. So to tell the web browser that your HTML file is HTML5, your HTML file actually is using HTML5 version, you include this at the top. So to start your HTML file, to tell the browser that this is the start of the HTML code that I'm going to be writing, use this HTML tag. And actually, let us explain tags, because I'm pretty sure you'll be wondering what are these angle bracket that I'm including in the test file. Well, first of all, tags are enclosed uh, in angle brackets. So this is a tag. I won't call this a tag. I will explain this in later on. But this is also a tag because we have this angle bracket. Some people might call this a tag also, but I won't call it a tag in this tutorial. So this is also a tag. This is also a tag, and we have, just think of tags as what we use for the markup. So we also use it for when we are when we want to add more than just text to our HTML file. So don't forget, this tag has meaning. Every tag has its own meaning, and we'll be learning different tags in this tutorial. So first of all, these at the top over here, angle less than HTML, and this greater than. This marks up opening tag, and you can already see that we had this slash to the tag in line 4. The reason why we do that is we use it to mark the closing tag. So this is the opening tag and this is the closing tag. And so don't forget these tags that I've explained earlier. So this is the start of our document, and it is very, very important that you specify a language attribute whenever you are writing your HTML code. And the reason why is that if you don't specify a language for your web page, the browser is going to automatically assign a language for you, and we don't want that. We don't want what we can't control. So we want to control what language our web pages are using. So to do that, you are going to specify these lang attributes. So what are attributes? The best way to define attribute is they add some extra information to our tag. So but actually they don't add extra information to the tag. They add it to the element, but I'll come back to the element later on. So first of all, we use this format: the attribute name, which is lang, so well, in line 2 we have the lang to be our attribute name, and we have the this over here to be our attribute value. And so what this does is that we've assigned a language to our web pages directly. Don't forget, all attributes must be in this opening tag. Actually, all your attributes must stay here. So, and well, let us assign it a value by giving the language attribute en. We are telling our web pages to use the English language for that particular page. So well, um, okay, I'll be explaining element and content in the next part of the tutorial, so let's move on. We have to explain head and body elements. So what are elements? So elements comprise of two things or three things. It depends on your point of view. So let me use three things. Well, the first, we have the opening tag, and we have the content, and lastly um, we have the closing tag. So this is actually HTML elements. Like what we are doing when we are assigning the language attribute over here, you are assigning it to this opening tag and this closing tag and everything that is in between, which is our HTML codes, all that we want to display in our web pages. So to further explain what elements are, because we have the opening tag, we have the closing tag of this HTML tag, so we call this tag HTML tag. You can also call it root tag. So this is the root opening tag and this is the root closing tag. And so, but where is the content? So let us explain the head, another tag, the head tag. So this is the head opening tag and this is the head closing tag. You might have already noticed that I indent my code with four tabs, four space actually. The reason why is that we want to make it readable for us programmers or coders. I won't call us programmers for now because this is a markup language, and so what we are writing is not a program, is a code. So the head, this head tags, we use it for adding metadata to our HTML file. So the reason why is that think of additional information that we want to add to our web pages. but it's not going to be displayed. Okay, for example, this is the what the user will see when they run our page, and everything that we want to add to our page that is not here, that is not going to be displayed over here, so we put them uh inside this head section, this head opening tag and head closing tag. And so we've already seen that our HTML tag now, our HTML element rather, now has a content of this head. So we can go ahead and add another tag to it. So this is the body tag, this is the body opening tag, and this is the body closing tag. And everything that we want to display on our web pages, we are going to put them inside this body opening and closing tag. So it's going to stay as the content. So now we have two elements. Actually, I won't call them tags, but for now they don't have content, so they are still tags. We have two elements as the content of this root element. So now these two elements, the head element and the body element, we can say that they are nested inside the HTML element. So I believe that's all about this. Well, first of all, I think the content, yeah. And so I believe we've discussed about this. So let's move on to the next. We are going to explain inline and block level elements. Okay, so I believe that's our lesson 4. So I can just go ahead and just copy everything we have over here and paste it over here. And so what are inline level elements and block level elements? First of all, before I explain this, I'm going to discuss about something, an element that you should add to every web pages you created, and this is the title element. So I'm going to add it first and then explain what is going on. So this is the title opening tag, this is the title closing tag, and let's give it some text as its content. So my first web page, and now if you go ahead and run this level 4, we are going to see that this title over here changes to my first web page, and if we change it to something else, maybe my first, and when the page reloads we see that our title is now my first. So you probably noticed this from web pages you visited. So almost every pages should have a title, because that's the general description of what your web page is all about. So And now let's move on to the main topic, which is to explain inline and block level elements. Okay, well, inline elements actually, think of it as, okay, let me just comment this out. I'll explain comment later. So whenever we're adding text or anything, any information in our web pages, it falls under two categories. It can either be inline or it can be a text, it can be a block level element. So inline level elements, they they flow in line with whatever content they have before or after them. Whereas block level elements kind of break things, and it takes the full width available. So to explain this, I'm actually going to uh, let us write a hello world. So and we get our text displayed over here in our web page. But if we want, if we actually keep adding text, you're going to see that it is going to display it over here also. So, but what if we want this hello world to take the full width available, so that it starts from here, and then although the content is just hello world over here, we want it to take up all these extra spaces, so that hello world over here is displayed around here actually. And to do that, we can use this block level element, the diff. I will explain the diff later on. So, and now we can see that this is taking the full width available. So this hello world actually doesn't stop here. It starts from over here and ends around here. So that's why this hello world cannot wrap uh, with it. So, but if we for other purpose, you want to add an element that just flows with the rest of the contents in our web page. So this is an example, the span element. So you can already see that hello world doesn't take the full width available, unlike uh, the span element is inline level element, unlike the div. The div is block level element. So I think that's all for this. Okay, and let's move on to the next part. I'm going to be discussing headings and paragraphs. So let me just um, and so let's say we want to create a web page. What first comes to our mind is to add a heading to our web page, and HTML helps with that. We don't need to just drop our text. Let's say our website is about cooking with pjdef, and so we can just drop our text to the web pages like this. Okay, let me change the file that we're referencing. So cooking with pjdef, but this is actually a heading in our web page, so we need to use the heading tags for that. If we want to add any heading to our web page, we use the heading tag. So we have a 6 level of heading. Okay, we have the h1 to h6, and so these are based on the order of importance. So h1 is the most important, so probably you should have only one h1 in your web page. So in our example, cooking with pjdev should be our h1. And so let's say under this heading we have subheadings, so we are going to be using h2. So under that subheading, let's say we have another heading, we are going to be using h3. And it is recommended that you don't use less than h3 when you are creating a web page. So you need to avoid tags like elements like the h4, the h5, and the h6. And so, well, let us test the other tags. Let's say we use h2, h3. Okay, you can already see that as we move downward in the order of importance, the tests are getting more and more lighter. They are not as bold as they used as h1 is. H2 is less bold than h1 and also small. So h3 is also smaller, and h4 and h5. So you can already see this is h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, and h6. And so don't forget, only use h1 through h3 throughout your web page. Avoid using h4, h5, and h6. But let's say we've created a web page. I just comment all this. And let's say you want to add a paragraph to our web page. And to do that, we are going to be using the paragraph element. Ṣé mo sọ lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́? Ṣé mo ti mi ò rántí ṣé mo ti ṣe kí ni? Ṣé mo ti. Mm-mm. Okay. Damn. Hello and welcome back, and we're going to continue at where we left actually. So I'm going to start the timer right now. So okay, and I think we are explaining the paragraph tag and the elements. So uh, the page tag we use it to add a paragraph to our web pages. And so let's go ahead, and we already have a headings for our web page, which is this h1 tag. And so can give it some paragraphs. This is my first paragraph, and we have this paragraph rating, which says that this is my first paragraph. And paragraph elements are actually block level elements, so they take the full weight available. So if I go ahead and add another paragraph, this is my second paragraph, and we see that is not in line with the first paragraph, because both of them are block level element. They are the same element actually. So this is a paragraph, and this is also a paragraph, and this is an h1 element. So I believe that is all about the headings and the paragraph. And so I'll be quick from now on. I'll just explain the elements and the tag that we use to create them. So line break and horizontal row. So I'm not going to create a new uh, okay, let's go ahead and create a new file for this section. And 6 and so first of all, I delete this. What we want to explain is I believe line break and so and horizontal row. First of all, line break, what do we use these elements for? We use it to just to uh, to add a line break to our content. By saying line break, what I meant by this is, let's say we want this and we want to move to the next line before we said is, and we also want to move to another line before we said my. So we need to add a line break, so that what it does is that it breaks this line so that this stands alone, and we want to just stop from this, and we want to continue in the next line. So to do this, we use the br tag. Br is just for break. So br is, I actually want to explain a very important concept here. So first of all, let's change this title to my first web page. And what I want to explain is, some tags doesn't have opening and closing tag. They are referred to as empty tags. So um, for example, the tags we are going to explain right now is the br tag is an empty tag. It doesn't have a closing tag. So well, there is no reason why it should have a closing tag, because there is no start or end for it. So it just breaks the line. That's what it's there for. And sometimes you might hear people call this a void element, apart from empty element or empty tags. So you can also hear people call it a void tags or void elements. So um if we want to mimic the creation of elements using this line break, we can just add a slash before the this greater than symbol. So that's it for the break. So I can go ahead and add a couple more. I want to break all the words. So and now we can see that this is my first paragraph. All of the words are written in their own line, because we've already break them so that they stand alone. So next up is horizontal row. So well, horizontal row, we use it to add a line rule to our web page. The line moves horizontally. So uh, when we add horizontal row, the line starts from here and just moves and takes up the full width available. So let's say we want to add an horizontal rule over here. It's the same as the line break. So there is no closing tag, so we use this hr Char just stands for horizontal row. And now you guys might ask that, so you already see that it's taking the full width, and we add this horizontally line. So this is a line, so we call it a rule. So that's the full meaning of HR, horizontal row. So you guys might ask that, should you use this form of the uh, horizontal row or this form? And it's just a matter of preferences. If you're a beginner, I recommend using this one so that you are mimicking the closing tag. So but if you've understand this concept of some element being empty or void, so you can keep using this. And so let's move on to the next part. The next part is text formatting. So and we are going to be discussing how to format our text in this part actually. So what you are going to do is we are going to add some paragraphs to our web page. So we have this text. This is a text, but what if we want to make this text bold? So to do that, actually we have a tag for that. So to do that, we use the strong tag. So what this does is that it make this text bold. So its content is text. So we already see we have a bold text. And so if you have some important text in your web page, you can surround them with the strong tag. So this is the strong opening tag and the strong closing tag. I won't be explaining this process anymore. So you already know that this is the closing tag and this is the opening tag. So uh, we have a complement tag to this strong, which is the B tag. B just stands for bold. So it does the same thing, but the strong actually is used by screen readers and uh, it's more semantic. Uh, let's just say it is semantic. It is semantic, and the B tag is just for visual purpose. So the strong tag is very useful for the web page, for the web browser, and that it tells the browser that this text over here is important. So but the B tag is just for visual purpose. So you already see that our text is also bold. So let me just zoom in a bit. So other formattings, we have the emphasis. So to lay emphasis on our text, just surround them with the emphasis tag em. So em just stands for emphasis, and we already see that it displays it in italic. And to lay any emphasis on text, use the em. So the em tags, the em is semantic, just like the strong tag, but we have an accompanying tag which is the I tag. So I is just for italics. So you can already see that our text is in this italic format. So to make it text big, use the big tag. So this will make the text more bigger than the remaining text. So to make it small, just use the small tag. And there we have it, a small text. And the next one that I'm going to discuss will make a lot of sense if we see it in an example, let's say we want to write 2 multiplied by 2, but you want to write 2 raised to power 2, 2 multiplied by 2 raised to power 2. What we do is we use the um, superscript tag. So the superscript tag is like this sup just for superscript, and what it does is that it display our text above the normal text. So already see that this looks like a 2 raised to power 2. And so that's it for the superscript. And we also have a corresponding tag for that, which is the subscript. So instead of raising it over, it raise it down, so that we have like a base. So let's just say we want to write 2 multiplied by 2 base 2, so we can just change it to sub. And so this, the sub is just for subscript, so this is the subscript tag. And if we want to mark any of our text important as important, we can use the mark tag. So this mark our text as important. You can already see that our text is highlighted in this yellow background. So if you want to highlight a particular portion of our text, we use the mark tag. So actually, let me just, if you want to delete a text in our, or any content really, but a text actually, so to delete anything, we can just delete that text completely, or we can use the delete tag. So this tells the web page that the text is deleted, and already see that to help our visitors, our viewers, that this text is deleted, the browser display the browser crosses the text, so that, so as to mark it as a deleted. So let's say we've deleted something, but we also want to insert another text. We use the insert tag. So ins just stands for insert, so ydel stands for deleted. So delete actually, sorry. So that's it. That's all about the text formatting. You also have the address tag. So if you want to add an address to your web page, uh, put the content inside the opening and closing address tag. So we also have the block quote. So let's say you have a quote on your web page, you can put that quote inside the block quote. So I believe that's all about this part of the tutorial. So done. So let's move on to buttons. If you are using VS Code, you can just write exclamation point and just exclamation mark and just press enter to generate this snippet of code, so that you can start writing your program directly and easily. To add a button to our web page, we're going to use the button tag actually. So opening button tag, we put whatever text you want to put inside it, and click me, and we close it. So we have a button over here that says click me. So there are different buttons, but we go over it. We are discussing form. So that's all about the button element. So don't forget, elements comprise of the opening tag, the content, and the closing tag. So we have links and iframes. To add a link to our web page, we use the A tag. A just stands for anchor. And if you think about it, don't forget we said that hypertext is any text that when click will take us to another page. So we achieve that using the anchor tag. So whatever text that we want to it to be our hypertext, we put it as its content. Say click me, and our hyperlink. Hyperlink is the link that when we click on this click me, the hyperlink is what page we get when we click on any link. So let's to specify our hyperlink, we use this href attribute. Let's give it the location of our let's give it our hyperlink. So let's say we want to direct our users to lesson 1, or let's say lesson our last lesson 8. So whenever I click this click me, it's going to redirect me to lesson 8, which is about buttons. So that's all about links. We have another attribute, the target attribute. You can set it to blank and to self. If you set it to blank, it's going to open another tab when I click this click me. So self is the default value. So let's check out the blank. So if I click this, it's going to open another tab and we get our lesson 8. And so that's all about links. And we also have iframes. So think of iframe as how we embed another page to our page. By embedding, I mean we display another page inside our own web page. So let's say I want to display lesson 7 inside our page. I specify the page in this src as attribute. src is short for source. We are not seeing anything actually, so okay. um okay, so we already get our test. I don't know why we are not seeing it. Okay, so this is the content of the lesson 7, and so that's all about the iframe. So you can use it to embed another page to our page. So we just move on to the next, which is images, audios and videos. And to add images to our web page, we use the img tag. Img just short for images. We specify the location of the image using the src, and it is an empty tag, so you can just add the slash to indicate the closing tag. So the src must reference the file. So I provide this shark image so that we can use it for example. So to we already see that we need to move out from this lesson folder, and to do that we use double dots to move out of the lesson folder, and so that we can specify the shark part, which is shark.png. And now you can already see our image actually. So we can specify the width using the width attribute. Let's say the width to 500 pixel, and you can already see our image is taking 500 in the width of our screen. So we can also specify the width in this percentage. Let's set it to 100%. And note that when we are setting the width, the height is adjusting relatively to the file size. So that let's say we have a 10 pixel by 10 pixel image. When we set it to a 20 pixel width, the height is also going to increase by that percentage. So which makes the image now 20 pixel width and 20 pixel height. So but to change this, we can also specify the height attribute. Let's set it to maybe 20 pixel. So we want a very squashed image. So there you go, that's our shark image. So that's all about the image. And next up we have the audio, and I'll provide this audio file demo.mp4. No, demo dot no actually this is the sorry, let's rename it to demo.mp3. So we use the audio tag. Don't forget, this is an image element. You can also call it image tag, or if you like, because it doesn't have a closing tag. So the audio tag also actually works a little bit like the img tag, but to specify its own source, we also use the src. So let's go ahead, and don't forget to leave the lesson folder. We use double dot, and this is our file. And if the audio file is not supported, we can display it by as the content. We can see that the browser does not support audio, does not support playing audio file. So you can already see that you're actually not seeing anything actually. To specify control for our audio file, we can add in the controls attributes, and the control a boolean attribute can either be yes or no, and there's no need to set it to equal to any value. So you can just put it in. By putting it in, we are setting it to equal to true, that we want a control, and by removing it, we are saying that we don't want a control. So now we have this little player over here. You can click the play button, and we get our song. Our song is played by the web browser. So that's all for the audio tag. So let's move on to the video. So we use the video tag for displaying video. Was similar to audio. Specify the source, and don't forget we need the controls. And now we have this very large video, so we can set the width to equal to maybe 60%. So we get this little video. So you can click the play button over here, and our video just played. And if we want to add like a cover photo, You can use the poster attribute, and we use it to reference the photo. So let's say the shark, this shark. We want to use the shark image. Before we click the play button, it's going to display the shark image. So it's like a thumbnail for our video, and when we hit the play, you can already see that we no longer saw our poster image, so this shark image. So that's all about the video, audio, and the images. So let's move on. So let's discuss about list. Okay, we have three different lists actually. So we have ordered list, unordered list, and description list or definition list, whatever we want to call it. So first of all, ordered list. To create ordered list, we start with the OL tag and we close the tag, and we nest our items as this list item element. So this is the list item opening tag, list item closing tag, and whatever value we want, we put it as its content. List one, uh, list two. So we already see that we got our list. So the browser provides this numbering for us automatically. So that's all about the ordered list. It's the same thing for the unordered list. So but instead of OL, we use the UL. UL is just for ordered list. And so we got this bulleted list by the browser. And so I just use mm-mm. And we also have the description list. Some used to call this definition list. So for this one, actually, it's a little bit different from another list and ordered list. So we start with the description list tags, opening and close, and we put all the term that we want to define inside the description term. So first of all, the description term followed by the description details. So we already saw that we have this very sensible formatting by the web browser. So that's all about the list. Next up, we have the table, and to create a table, we start with the table tag. So and let's say that don't forget, the table is going to be organized like a grid. So when we progress downwards through our grid, we are moving through the rows. So let's say this is row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3, this is row 4, and we are going to have it in a grid like format. So to create our first row, we use this tr tag. So and if to pop in elements to the table, we use the th tag for the table head and the td tag for the table data. So let's say first let's say this is like abbreviation, and this is like for the minutes. and we can have another table row, th, let's say HTML. So what's the meaning of HTML? You know that that's hypertext markup language. And so we already got this table format. So but we are not seeing anything right now. It doesn't look like a table. So finally saw our table. We can add the border attribute, set it to maybe 1 or 2. So this value actually control is thickness. You can already saw that 2 is more thicker than 1. So let's just leave it at 1. So and this is our row 1 and this is our row 2. So this is columns, this is column 1, this is column 2, this is row 1, this is row 2, and you can create more rows using the this TL tag. And using to create columns, we use either th or td. So that's all about the table. And next up, we are going to create details and summary. Oh god, damn, time is almost up actually. Okay, let's say we're going to be discussing about details and summary. And so let's say you have like maybe this FAQ on your web page, and you want to hide some details, and so that whenever people click on this arrow, the details we have this summary over here, and when you click on this, the details got refilled. And so we can just um, for example, let's say we have this for this for the summary, just place it in between the summary opening tag and closing tag. And for the full details, you can just use any tag that you want, really any tag. So let's say this to be hypertext, and so when I click on this HTML, it got refilled hypertext markup language. And that's all about the details and summary. Next up, we have Fieldset and legend. So for Fieldset and legend, let's say we want some section of our web page to be like maybe a side, like a trick or a tip, like it's not really part of the page. So to give our tip some, we can already saw this little border over here, so that it differentiates it from the rest of our content, the rest of the content in our web page. So to give it a title, we use the legend tag. So and the content should be our title, more about HTML, and for whatever we want as the content of that aside of that field set actually. So we can just add any element inside it. So use a case insensitive. So we already saw how this is formatted by the web browser. So that's all about the Fieldset and the legend. So next up, we have forms. So let's say almost all of us has filled some form in a web browser, maybe a login form, or maybe we want to order something. So obviously we fill a form, and to start our form we start with the form tag, and we use the input element. The input is this an empty element, so it doesn't have a closing tag. So by default the type of the input is set to text, so I can just input any text, but we can override it by when you say the input to be text explicitly, so that we ensure that the input is actually a type of text, and you can set a placeholder. For example, let's say enter your username, and so like a hint to the user, so that they can know what to enter uh, to the input. So we also have the password. So if I set the type to equal to password, um, format things a bit, enter your password, but actually this has no meaning for over here. So let's say I want to enter any password. I can already saw that we are not getting the password you filled. So that's all about the password. So we can set it to this type to equal to tel, so that let's say someone wants to input their phone number, so tel. So you can also set the placeholder over here. So um, I can just input my telephone number. So let's say we want the input to be a date, maybe the date of birth or something like that. I can set it to equal to date, and I already saw this. I can just click on this and I can pick a date. So that's all about the date also. And let's say we want to accept larger text. To do that we use the text area element, and so we can pass in some placeholder over here. Like let's say we want tell us more about yourself, and so let's format things a bit. So I don't know why the placeholder is not working. It should work perfectly. I don't know why it's not displaying. Tell us more about yourself. Why? Okay, here we got it. Tell us more about yourself actually. So that's about the test area. And let's say we want a submit button. I use the input, set the type to equal to submit, and whatever text we want to display at the button text, can pass it in as the value. But by default we are going to get the submit by default. but we can change it over here. So that's all about the submit button. But let's say we want to reset, we want a reset button just like the submit. We got this test automatically. So let's say I've pasted in some value over here. I've pasted in some telephone number. I've picked a date, and I've tell you guys about me. So then I click on this reset. It's going to remove all the inputted value from all these inputs. So you already saw the effect. So that's all about the form. So let's move on. So this is about the select an option. So this, let's say in our form, in the form that our web user is going to fill, we want the user to be able to click some option. So let's say like we have some subscription and it's going to be monthly based. So let's say we have a 6-month subscription and a 12-month subscription. So first of all, we create our select tags, opening and closing tag, and we pass in those options as the option element over here, and the value over here is going to be the content of the option tag is going to be the text. So let's say this is 6 months, and the next one is going to be 12 months actually. And actually we want to display a text like select your monthly subscription. Now I can go ahead and select maybe 12 months or 6 months, but by default the 6 months is selected. Let's say I want the 12 months to be selected. I can just pass in the selected boolean attribute. Don't forget, we don't need to set it to equal anything, and by default the 12 is selected. So that's all about the select and options. And next up we have the data list. The data list is also like the select, except it is mostly using search bars. So let's say we want to search for something, for example Google search. If we want to Google search, when we are typing something, it automatically suggests what we want to type. So that's what the data list is used for. To if you want to add all those all those suggestions, we're going to pass it in over here inside the data list. And so let's say this is HTML, and let's say we can add as many options as we want. So let's say this next up is CSS, and lastly we have JavaScript. And so this to select your language, and we need an input element. So, and to connect it to with our data list, we need to set its list to equal to let's say this data, and the ID of the data list must match the list attribute of the input. So this is the ID attribute must also equal to data. So now if I start typing HTML, it also suggests that I want to click on this HTML. So let's say I only press HT and I click on this HTML, it's going to complete this for me. So that's all about the data list. So let's move on. Okay, so for the canvas and the SVG, in this tutorial I'm not going to be explaining SVG, but I'm going to briefly explain the canvas. So to start, we are going to create the canvas element. So, and we use this mainly for drawings. So SVG is for scalable vector graphics. So it's for think of it as for vector graphics. So that is what it was used for. But for canvas, we can use it for more than that, than just displaying images created based on shapes. So canvas allow more drawing functionalities, but to draw anything on our canvas we need to use some JavaScript. So to include JavaScript in our web page, we use the script tag, and I'll explain in more details what I'm doing over here in the future in the JavaScript session. And so even beyond 2D, we can use it to draw 3D. So let's say I want to draw a rectangle. To draw a rectangle, I can just pass in the x and y coordinates. So let's say the width to equal to 100, the height is also equal to 100, and we got our rectangle. So this is 2020. This is the origin of 00, and this is 2020 downward and to the right. So we got our 100 by 100 square. So we can change the color by calling the fill style and setting it to equal to anything. So let's say green, and that's all about the canvas. So let's move on. And CSS. So up until now, we've not been styling anything in our web page. So to add styles to our web page, we need to make use of the CSS. So let's say I have a level 2 heading. So don't forget, the H1 is for level 1, H2 is for level 2, to H6, which is level 6. So and to include style, we need to place our style tags to just right before the closing head tag. And to style, for example, this H2 element, I need to select it first. So to select it, just type in the element name and followed by curly braces. So our style is going to go inside this block. So this is the start of a block, and this is the end of a block. So let's say I want to override its color property, then I change it to anything. So let's set it to green. So our H2 is now in a green color. So to add more style to our H2, we separate it with this semicolon over here. And to separate the property from the value, we use this double colon over here. So this is the property, the color property, and this is the value, the green color. So let's set its background color to something else. Let's say gray. And now the H1 is in gray background. You can see what I was talking about with the block level element. It takes all the whole width available. So you can go ahead and add color or background color to any element that is visible. So the body is also visible. The body is all over here. So let's say let's set its background color to maybe black. So our page is now has a black background. So that's all about CSS. Now let's move on to JavaScript. So for this tutorial, actually I won't be explaining in detail the JavaScript, but I'll be explaining the event. So first of all, let's create a button. Set it as content to call click me, and so let's say we want to perform a function when we click the button. JavaScript is mainly used for adding functionality to our web page. So while CSS is for adding styles to our web page or decoration to our web page. So and HTML just for the structure. So let's say we want to perform something. When we click it, we can change is we can use this on click event, so that when we click we perform something. So we set the on click attribute to equal to some JavaScript code. We can alert, we can send an alert message using this alert function. More on function in the future. Let's say we are using a single quote to set our value. Over here we are going to be using double quotes to avoid conflict. So let's say you clicked a button, and so whenever I click this button, we are going to get the alert you clicked a button. So that's mainly all for JavaScript. So now let's move on to meta tags. For meta tags, actually we're not going to be discussing what is going inside the body. So we'll be staying inside the head. So first of all, this is a meta tag. What this specifies is the character set that we are using for the web page, and by saying UTF-8 as its value, just think of UTF-8 as the character set containing almost all the language that you ever use in your web page. And this meta tag, actually what it does is it makes our page responsive for both the mobile devices and laptops or systems, or so for those who are using desktops. So let's say we want to add some keywords of our web page. So we set its name to equal to keywords and its content to equal to the keywords that is in our page. Let's say this is like this is a web page that teaches HTML. So you can add the keywords and separate them using comma. So that's all about the keyword. Let's say we are the author of our web page or somewhere else. We can easily add the meta name, set its name to equal to author and its content to equal to the name of whoever created the web page. And let's say our page, we want to set the description for our page. We set its name to equal to description and its content to equal to the description of our web page. So line HTML with page def. And so that's all about the meta tags. And so with 3C HTML validator, so let's say you've created your web page using HTML and you want to check if there are errors in your web page. You can easily go to the link down in the description, and you are going to upload your HTML file. And what it does, that is going to check your file and it's going to point out some best practices, some errors if there are errors, some details that you are not filling in your HTML file. So that is all for this tutorial, and I really hope you enjoyed it, and I believe you've gained a thing or two. So this is HTML crash course, and thanks for joining. And so that's it. You clicked a button. Actually, okay, bye. Bye. Okay.